Hi, Pia, and hi, Cullen. It's so wonderful to have you on Wellness Uncut this week with me. I'm super excited about talking to you about your Pleiadian perspective and the wisdom from the Larkma and everything else that you've been up to as well. Now, just so my viewers understand who you both are, Pia, your name's Pia Orleane, you're a PhD. You're a former practicing psychologist, author, and intuitive. And you've developed an amazing new astrological system as well with, and also you do quite a lot of health consultations and things like that as well. You're a pioneer of the divine feminine, which I find really intriguing. And you're actually a world leading expert on that and an award winner. And yeah, you tend to have a philosophy on life where you combine science with ancient wisdom. Is that right?
You have absolutely summarized it perfectly, Hayden. Thank you so much for recognizing all the things that I do and bringing them into your listeners.
That's okay. It's no problem. And Cullen, you're an empathic intuitive and a visionary, also an author, and you've got extraordinary healing abilities. And ever since a young child, you've been having some quite otherworldly experiences, haven't you?
Yes.
So is there anything else that you do that I've missed out?
Well, I'm actually an anthropologist and an archaeologist, so I have spent a tremendous amount of time in very sacred and very historic sites around the world. And that brought me to the Mayan information years and years and years ago. And that has been part of what Pia and I have been involved with, interpreting the Mayan calendar so that we could develop the astrological system that we developed together.
Got it. I love it. So I love the way that your lives have kind of intertwined and synchronized together to be able to convey all of this beautiful wisdom to the earth right now, because obviously we're going through a massive, rapid period of change at the moment. Obviously 2020 awakenings taking place. People are scared because obviously we've got COVID here, we've got conspiracies over here, we've got the start of the new golden age of Aquarius over here, and everybody's kind of left in the middle wondering what the hell is going on. So you've written 4 books, I believe that 4 that I've seen from your website: The Sacred Earth, The Pleiadian Earth Energy Retreat, Remembering Who You Are, and Conversations with Larkma. So I actually want to touch on all of those different books. And I've got a couple of questions that I would like to ask you with relation to each of the books as we go forward, if that's okay.
Sure.
That's delightful. And we have a 5th book that'll be coming out hopefully by this fall. So there'll be a 5th one, which is a manual on accelerating our evolution. Oh,
I like the sound of that one, accelerating our evolution. Let's do it. I reckon we should all jump on board that for sure. Okay, so we'll start with the Sacred Earth, okay, so which is honoring human biology cycles and moving away from technology and the patriarchal driven system. About time. We're bored of it. It's just old school, isn't it? So, but can you explain how we're going to move away from this technology driven patriarchal system on our planet?
Well, my viewpoint on that is that the first thing we have to do is reawaken the awareness that we are androgynous beings. We may be having an experience in a male body or a female body, but actually we carry the divine feminine and the divine masculine in each of us, no matter who we are and what gender we're in currently. So remembering that is going to be a first step, because the patriarchal culture has absolutely overridden all of the divine feminine culture. We have become competitive, greedy, warlike, manipulative, all of these things that are aligned with patriarchal control, which separates us. The divine feminine brings in the aspect of nurturance, cooperation, caring for one another, being able to see the highest good for all. Those are the aspects that we've forgotten. And as we begin to reawaken, to remember, those aspects need to be incorporated too. We quite naturally step away from this linear technology and back into the spirals of nature, which will help us to evolve, because evolution is a spiral. It's not linear.
Absolutely. It's the Fibonacci sequence ultimately, isn't it? And you can see it repeated everywhere in nature. You know, it's the natural code of light. It's definitely not linear A to B. So I totally resonate with that. And it's nice that you know, sort of suggesting there and actually reinforcing the fact that we are androgynous beings. I mean, I was brought up, you know, always feeling very different because I was a guy that was very in touch with his feminine side. And of course, you know, struggled with my sexuality, really wasn't sure what I wanted or anything, tried everything and didn't really like any of it. And it was like, okay, so many of us are feeling like this. We don't want to be pigeonholed and put into a box and saying that, okay, because you're a man, you've got to be masculine. Because you're a woman, you know, you've got to be feminine. We're all like, we're all of it and so much more, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for understanding that and expressing it so clearly.
Oh, that's all right. It's, you know, I I went to film school and I tried to kind of blur the boundaries between gayness and straightness during my thesis final project, and I've always been fascinated in, you know, the constraints of our you know, the way that we're explained and described in life and the way we're supposed to be. I don't like it, so that's great. Okay, so the Pleiadian Earth Energy Retreat. Discover how to navigate the spiral energy patterns of the universe for conscious evolution. So you explained that there's 13 patterns of universal energy and 20 spirals of earth energy interacting on the calendar each day. But how can we use these 13 patterns and 20 spirals in any given day for spiritual evolution? How do we use them? What are they all about?
I'll just say one thing and then I'll turn it over to Cullen. But this book was a natural evolutionary leap from the first book about cycles, because the first book was in training us, teaching us to get back in harmony with our cyclical nature. This book took it to the cosmic level. Go ahead.
Well, what we wanted to achieve in writing that particular book was to help people understand, as we've spoken already in this interview, nothing is linear. Linearity is a man-made concept. We don't really work in the real world, the non-normal world, in any kind of straight or rectilinear designs. Everything is a spiral, as you've already pointed out. So the book is really a treatise on understanding that if we switch our focus from time to energy, we will have a completely different understanding, a completely different way of seeing how our lives work, our own personal lives, how we work with other people, other individuals, and how we work with the cosmos. So this system, which was a really incredibly fascinating study for us, we took years, we probably took a decade of research, refining.
Listening to the Pleiadians.
Their help, the Pleiadians' help was essential in understanding this system. So what we did was we experimented basically on ourselves and friends to see how accurate the system would be compared to other astrological or other divining kinds of systems. And we found out quite quickly that it was so accurate that it was astounding to us. We could look forward and say, there's a potential that something will happen in the future. And then we put it away and we waited. And guess what? The things that we saw that would be coming true indeed did come true. And conversely, do you want to add to that? Conversely, we retroactively looked at things that had happened to us in our personal lives.
Looking at the energy of the day.
Exactly. And do you want to?
I was just going to say, just to add in, and Cullen can finish this about how it affected and impacted us, but each human being brings in a cosmic energy, some specific energy they're supposed to add into the fabric of humanity in our experience. They also bring in an assignment, and the assignment is explore the higher and the lower vibrations of this energy. So we have an earth energy to explore, and we have a cosmic energy that we are integrating into part of the picture. So each person has that as part of their personality. Each day also carries that energy. We schedule everything according to what the energy of the day is. We chose this day to do this interview with you because it carries the energy of 13, which is the energy of integrating. so that we could integrate all of these wonderful ideas in conversation with you. But when we were looking at it personally in our exploration, as Cullen was talking about, we were looking at how certain things, either positive or negative, happened on certain periods of time. Go ahead.
Well, it was absolutely accurate. We could look at a certain day, let's say 2 years ago, and we often take notes. We often journal about what's going on in our lives. And so we could look back accurately and say, oh my God, that exact experience happened on an energetic day that matches how it would have unfolded. We were amazed. And so we started talking to others about it. And this was years and years ago. And people would say, this is the most accurate either forecasting or retroactive look at how energy affects us. It was a complete eye-opener to us.
So now we're doing everything as much as possible, still living in 3D with a calendar that designates what times are effective for us. We do everything according to the energy of the day. And this particular system, unlike Western or Vedic astrology, is in harmony with nature, because the energy of the day changes at sunset, not at 12 midnight, which is an arbitrary something that was calculated with a Gregorian calendar, but actually in harmony with nature. And we can feel the energy start to shift at sunset every day. And the more people who are working with this system, the more they also are saying, this is amazing. It's really helped me figure out my life.
So has this got anything to do with like precognition or retrocognition? You know, it sounds like it's very predictive.
It's not predictive per se, but it's in alignment with understanding what energies are coming in so that you're more open to them. Some people can smell the rain before the clouds come in the sky. And that's the sort of prediction this is. You can go, oh, I see this energy's coming in. I need to take an umbrella, or I need to not go out that day. It's that type of prediction because you understand what the energy is going to be. Retroactively, it's good just for reassuring yourself that you know what you're doing, that you're learning it. But it does actually, the more you play with this and start living from it, it does actually open up your intuition.
And what it does is it takes us out of an intellectual state, and it actually puts us into more of a feeling state, because we feel the energies. And if we're aware of an energy coming toward us, we're more prepared to be able to navigate, facilitate, to actually work with that energy rather than trying to overthink, well, it should be this way, or historically it has always been this way. But if we work with energy rather than time, it's much more of a feeling or a sensation than an intellectual endeavor.
Can you give me an example then of something that's occurred, maybe, you know, in the past or in the future?
Sure. One of the most challenging energies to work with, if you go against it, is the energy of 4. Because 4 is about foundation, structure, being very, very solid. If you choose to go on a trip on a 4-day, your luggage gets lost, the airplane will have mechanical problems, the ticket agents might skip over your name when you're boarding. Any kind of structural things can happen because your energy is involved in movement, but you're doing it on a structural day. So you automatically have more challenges. Another day that's particularly challenging for travel is 2, or for anything for that matter, because 2 is the energy of duality. Larkma, our Pleiadian friends, tell us that over and over again that we have misused duality from the very beginning because we have aligned it with opposites. Opposites have to be opposite. They can't coordinate. They can't find harmony. They have to oppose each other in a conflictual way. That's the way we have treated duality. Duality was intended to take the opposites and merely give us a different perspective, like looking at opposite sides of a coin. So On a 2-day, until you learn to do that, to see the opposite perspectives, you're going to find yourself arguing viewpoints. You're going to find yourself having conflicts. You'll find lots of things coming from that old usage of duality inappropriately.
It's interesting because to explain duality through the color mirror system, this is duality bottle. So you can see that it looks like black and white. So you can't actually see that those two would ever integrate until you look closely at the black segment of the bottle, and it's actually deep magenta, which is divine love. And then you've got the clear, which is, you know, our oneness and our unity consciousness. So actually, you know, it is one of the same thing when you look closely, but it appears very separate, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, exactly right.
And that brings up what you just mentioned, brings up the actual reason for the book and the calendar that goes with it. It's all about trying to understand more thoroughly unity consciousness. It's all about how energies can work together rather than opposing one another. And I don't mean one another as human beings. I mean all energies, interspecies, the David kingdom, the angelic kingdom, all of the different elements that make up our world and the universe. We're designed to get along and we're designed to get together. But duality, unfortunately, as Pia explained, hasn't been utilized in that wise way. So unity consciousness is really probably the strongest theme for what we're talking about today with you.
When
Lovely.
we do person sessions, which we do all the time with people all over the world, allowing them the opportunity to ask Larkma questions and get the Pleiadian perspective, often we will schedule them on a 2-day, a day with duality, so that Pleiadian influence will help them move beyond any place that they're stuck and get a different perspective and move forward.
I love that. So it's basically it's utilizing numerology with astrology in a very concise and synchronized way, which is beautiful. I love that. So yeah, so that's a very good example, I think, that you've given there, and I think it helps to explain it exceptionally well. So my next question really would be, you know, can you share some of that cosmic wisdom from Larkma Pleiadian group on the COVID-19 and 2020 awakening? Because you talk about don't do anything on a 4. Well, you know what's happening. We're in a universal year cycle 4 at the moment because it's 2020. And of course, there's 2s and 4s there. So is this why this is going on?
The structures are shaking. Larkma has been telling us for 10 years that we were approaching a time when all the structures would fall apart. And now that it's here, they say, we're no longer predicting it, it's here. And they say, what you have to do is twofold. You are in 3rd dimensional reality, and they never use 5th dimension because they said going to 5th dimension is a linear way of looking at things. They say, don't do that. That keeps you stuck in linearity. Instead, look at multidimensionality. You might be moving into the 12th, the 9th, 5th, but don't choose that you're only going into the 5th because that's linear.
One of the things that they tried to help humanity with was the understanding about the very mysterious end of the Mayan calendar. What they tried to help us understand was that it wasn't the end of the world, it was the end of the world as we know it. And what they have helped humanity understand through us is that from 2012 forward, we have the ability to contact and understand all dimensions, not the linear going from 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, as Pia just mentioned, but we're capable of actually being in any of the dimensions simultaneously. And that has brought an amazing change for the Earth and for humanity since 2012.
To help us wake up. So back to your question is, what do Larkma say about what's going on now? They say we're in the middle of the breaking down of the structures, and there's 2 things that we have to do. One is to approach it in the 3rd dimension, and the other is to approach it multidimensionally. Now, there's a division in how people are interacting with this situation right now. Many people are going, no, we have to read all the news, we have to look at what's going on, we have to scientifically explore it. And then there's this other faction over here that's going, all we have to do is send love and light and do nothing else and it'll be fine. Larkma actually says both are important. They said you're not in multidimensionality where you can only send love and light, and you're not only in 3D where you have to fight everything either. They said what we need to do is open our intuition, use our hearts to discern what's true and what we're being fed as lies, because the heart will resonate with the truth. And then use our third dimensional position to stand up and say, no, we don't believe this. No, we won't accept that. Whatever it is that they're that we don't feel compatible with, we have to speak up. But simultaneously, we need to approach it multidimensionally, which is, don't be in the combative energy, just be strong. Just stand up and say, from my heart, this is what needs to be said, and send love and light to everybody rather than seeing them as an enemy.
So one of the aspects of what Larkma is trying to help us with, and when I say us, I mean all of humanity, is this is a time of opportunity, not a negative time. Most of the news media is only talking about negativity and fear-based understandings. What Larkma is trying to help us understand is this is a gift. This is the beginning of the change that we've all been looking for, that we've all been creating behind the scenes. And so I think one of their greatest messages is, look at this as an opportunity to grow, evolve, and create the unity consciousness that you've been wanting and expecting to come forth. So they don't see it as a negative or necessarily a chaotic situation. They see it as something that's very positive.
But we have to take our responsibility and do our part. We can't just wait on something external to change or to save us. They're very clear that we don't recognize what power we carry, and that we have to monitor our thoughts and our feelings and keep them at the high vibratory levels, and then speak out for things that we want to change. They're very clear about that.
So in a way, it's more of a springboard, what's happening now, for
Yes.
us to pivot ourselves and move forward in a more enlightened unity consciousness kind of fashion, I guess.
Absolutely.
According to the Pleiadian Earth Energy Calendar, Venus is going to move into a very different position in October of 2022, October 22nd of 2022 to be exact. When Venus gets into that position, there's going to be more energy of harmony, love, and peace that's prevalent. But we won't be able to take advantage of it if we don't do our job now. We have to keep our vibration up and do our responsible work to get to this place where the portal's open.
So there's also a little bit of fear mongering or expectation that's based around the date. The Cosmic Consciousness event was due to be held at Uluru this year on the 21st of the 12th, 2020. Now, what do Larkma say about this? What is actually going to happen?
Go ahead.
Well, they are telling us that it's going to be a very auspicious, very pivotal,
energetic moment,
energetic time. And I'm using the word time because we do live in time in 3D. But their idea is that that date, or that several sequence of dates, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd, will be an actual opening of energetic portals that will allow us to be and see things absolutely differently, from a completely different perspective.
They also do not hold to linear time per se. They, although they say these dates will be opening up to these energies that will be present, they also tell us you're approaching this now, and it will continue after the 21st of December. It's just going to be heightened at that point. So step into it as a waveform. Step into it with your own energy, with excitement and expectation of good things happening, being positive about what's coming your way. Do your work now and be ready for the changes that will be coming at that time. They never ever say change is going to happen on a specific day. They say opportunities for change will be present. But whether you take those opportunities depends on what you do in each now moment up until that energetic period.
However, humans need at this time dates, because in order for us to gather together, in order for us to be in a specific space and place, whether it's for a ceremony or a gathering, dates are still three-dimensionally important.
And the Pleiadians have something to say about that too. They say that that also can add either a positive energy or a negative energy. If you're attending the Cosmic Consciousness Conference and you're very excited because something new is coming, you bring that energy, and everybody else coming with that viewpoint brings that energy into consciousness. And that contributes to the energies that are already present. Those people who are saying, oh no, I'm afraid it's going to be the end of the world, are bringing negative energy into the environment, creating something else. So they're encouraging us to really be positive about how we think and about what we feel as we step into this opportunity.
Absolutely, because, you know, there are multiple paradigms, I guess you'd call them, that could happen simultaneously. So,
yes,
you know, so there's a possible future reality which is, you know, sort of aligning more to unity consciousness, but then there's another possible future paradigm that is aligning to a dystopic energy matrix on the earth.
So the question becomes, where do you want to be? Do you want your energy to be with the oneness, higher vibration energy, or do you want to be with the lower fear-based energy?
So what in their opinion is the work? You mentioned the work that has to be done between sort of now and then as we move forward, irrespective of the date of the 21st or the 21st, 22nd of December. What can each and every single one of us do that's going to align us to this beautiful new utopic earth matrix energy?
There's inner work and there's outer work. The outer work is very simple. When you hear something that doesn't resonate with your heart and somebody's trying to cram it down your throat as the truth, speak up, share with everybody else and say, this is not true and this is why it's not true. Don't just automatically accept what the news is telling you. If they want to inoculate you for a supposed condition, consider and use your own discernment, not judgment, but discernment. Is this realistically something that will benefit me, or is there another agenda behind it? And if you find it doesn't resonate and you feel there's another agenda, say no and do it en masse. Everybody, just say no, we're not going to do this. If you're concerned about the higher EMF frequencies that are coming with 5G and what all of that means, which we should be, if that's part of the problem, then you're working on, you need to write to all of your governmental controls, all your medical doctors, anybody, show up on their doorstep and say, we don't want this, so that enough people are showing up saying no, that they have to change it and they have no option. That's the outer work. You want to talk about the inner work?
Well, the inner work is incredibly simple. It's a very short description. Keep your vibration as high as possible. Whenever there's a conflict, any kind of tension, any kind of disturbance, instead of reacting to it in an old paradigm way of either being defensive or angry or hurt or filled with grief, whatever the emotion might be, an immediate transfer of feeling and thought to simply raising one's vibration, just realizing that these are just experiences. They're neither good nor bad. They're just experiences that come to us for our education and our evolution. Larkma has said over and over again, people ask this question, when we are in public gatherings, in workshops, or we're doing live international calls, or when people are asking for personal synchronizations with Larkma, often the same question comes up. What is the most important thing I can do to make a difference? And they will say over and over again, keep your vibration as high as you possibly can.
Which of course means eliminating all fear. Stare your fear in the face and ask what's the worst that could happen, and then be okay with what's the worst that can happen, and trust that you'll be able to avoid that by making good choices. And stop judging. Whether you're judging yourself as not being good enough, or whether you're judging someone else because they're different, stop judging, stop blaming, and stop being in fear. Those three things right there are enough to bring the vibration up continually.
And so it doesn't always have to involve going vegan and, you know, stopping having a glass of wine in the evening and all of those things, or does it?
Well, it depends. Lartma talks about it coming from different levels. They say if you want to work with your energy, you have to work with all of your energy. Your choices, what you watch on television or on internet, what movies you go to, don't do violent things, don't do things that are upsetting to your system. And what you put into your body needs to be appropriate also. So they say there's different ways of looking at it. As far as having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, they have no particular problem with that per se. But they do point out that if you have alcohol or wine, it takes you out of synchronization and harmony with the earth because it disrupts your rhythms. Wine slows you down, caffeine speeds you up. You can't feel the nature rhythms of the earth anymore if you do those things. So they say no about that.
But I want to add in, they have absolutely no judgment about what we choose. They know that humanity is one of the only civilizations in the universe who has free choice to truly make up our own ideas and our own ways of deciding what we want to do. So they give guidance about what Pia just said about changing rhythms, changing our brain rhythm, our heart rhythm with natural situations, natural compounds, you know, natural things that are available to us. But they say it's always your choice. If you want to be more intuitive, if you want to be able to telepathically communicate, human to human, species to species, you might consider what you put in your body and what you put into your mind. So
their view on veganism and vegetarianism versus meat eating is basically about death. They say if you're continuing to eat meat, you're taking in the energy of the animal that is killed. You're taking in its death, which is really not consistent with nurturing yourself. So you're taking in death energy. You're also adding to your fear level because you take in the fear the animal experienced when it was being killed. So there's an aggressive energy and a fear energy and a death energy that goes into the system, which are more dense energies, and they will definitely keep you at a lower vibration. But again, it's a choice. They don't condemn us for doing that. They just say this is the reality. You get to choose. There's only one substance they absolutely say totally, completely we should avoid at all costs.
And what's that? Toffee?
No. Sugar.
Sugar.
And they're talking about cane sugar, high fructose corn syrup. They're not talking about maple syrup and honey or stevia. They're talking about actual cane sugar and high fructose corn syrup.
They've been talking about the danger of intaking sugar for as long as we've been working with them for several decades. They've been talking about avoiding sugar because it does several things. It puts holes in our light body. It changes our metabolism. It changes our brain chemistry. It does all of these things that are truly not good for a human organism. Only in the past 3 to 5 years have medical organizations like the World Health Organization, the Canadian Medical Association,
National Institutes of Health,
have now come out saying sugar is a substance that you should never ingest. Larkma has been trying to warn people for decades about this, and now science is finally catching up with Larkma's wisdom and saying, yes, this is true, and you would be much healthier and much better off and much more in the ability to enlighten yourself without the use of sugar.
Sugar is more addictive than cocaine or heroin. And that has been scientifically proven now, although the Pleiadians told us that long before science caught up with them. So that's the one substance they say, if you have any concern for your health and well-being at all, avoid sugar in all forms, not in cookies, not in added ingredients.
Yeah,
cereal.
no toffee. It's funny because I just said that as a random off-the-cuff joke, and I was actually right. So yeah, it's funny because that's like, for me, I was brought up with my gran always like making toffee for me, and she'd be like, oh, come round and we'll have tea and I'll make you some toffee, and I'd be like, oh, she's so loving, and actually she was doing one of the worst things for me, wasn't she?
Yes.
But she didn't know. She didn't know.
Hayden, we could talk about this subject, which we can't today because of limited time, but we could talk about sugar and how it has affected society and humanity from many, many different angles and elements. If we're able to talk to you again, speak with you again, it would be a wonderful subject matter.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should move on to the next question, though. But I would definitely like to, continue this line of talk in future discussions for sure. Okay, so we'll move on to remembering who we are, and I wanted to find out how Delarkma suggests that we heal ourselves from all discomfort and disease. Obviously, to avoid sugar. But is there anything else that they suggest?
Well, they suggest basically changing our entire perspective so that we begin to understand the power that we have within us. The book gives all kinds of conditions and all kinds of ways of looking at the world. For instance, they talk about our foundation is based on earth, air, fire, and water. And they say that's a very good third-dimensional description of your foundation here on earth. But there's a larger foundation you need to start thinking about, and that's love, joy, trust, and compassion. And they relate each one of those cosmic foundations to the earthly foundations to expand our awareness of who we are. They talk about the energy behind colors. You were talking about the colors for all the different energies that we carry. They talk about the colors and explain how to choose colors. You wanted to say something?
Well, I was also going to bring up the fact that one of the things they talk about at length is how antiquated and barbaric our medical system is here on Earth compared to medicine outside of this planet. They talk at length, and they laugh with us about how barbaric and how antiquated our medical system is. And they say everything has become too specialized. They have compartmentalized everything about the human body, which is the opposite of how the human body works. The human body works as a complete system, and you cannot separate this system from that system because it just brings a complete confusion to the body about how it can heal itself. And so what they try to get us to understand is that we've given up our power to know how to heal ourselves. We've given it up to medicine in the past 300 to 400 years. And what they tell us is that through the understanding of meditation, colors, any possible kind of specific ways of listening to the body and working with the body, we can heal ourselves.
They also expand on something they started in the first book, which we'll get to in a moment, but they expand in great depth about how our emotions and how our thoughts affect our whole health, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And they go into great detail about, and even give exercises that we can use to change how we respond with reactions. And instead, they're teaching us how to not react, but to respond by thinking about what we're feeling. They connect the thought and the feeling together so that we could use them cooperatively to heal ourselves and to make the world better. So they go in great depth on that. Beautiful.
So have you actually ever been on board a light craft, like a spacecraft? Have you, because you mentioned that that you're the first couple that were invited into the Galactic Federation of Light onto the council. Have you actually been in the environment? Have you experienced it as a physical thing or just as thought form?
That is a very important and very timely question. Thank you.
And one that we don't normally talk about publicly, but we will with you for your listeners. I can tell you that I was taken on board a ship when I was about to die, and I was healed. Something else was done. I can also tell you that almost all of the memories of anything I might look around and perceive were wiped out, so that I could come back and not be out of the environment. But I remember enough to know that I was there. I remember enough to know that something happened. And the other thing that I can say about that is that the next day I was completely fine and I was on death's door. So that's a partial answer. You want to add to that, Cullen?
Well, there's a huge, very large controversy about people talking about the fact that they have been on a ship. And we've gone around and around with this with Larkma for years and years. And Larkma's interpretation is that our physical bodies are too dense to actually be able to be transported into a light ship, that our fragility of our dense, this is going to sound funny and opposite of what I'm trying to say, but I'm going to say it like this. The fragility of our denseness won't allow us for very long, probably only seconds, to actually be able to deal with the intense energy that a light ship is made of and the people who are on the light ships. So Larkma's point of view is that we can etherically, of course, be on a light ship for as long as we want. But they caution people when they say, yes, I've been on a ship and I've seen all of the control systems, I've seen the propulsion systems, I've talked to the beings. In our experience, both together and separately, Pia and I probably have not been physically on a ship.
No, not physically. But this leads into, we're leading into the first book again, but this leads into that concept a little bit more deeply, because when you go on a ship etherically, it aligns with Larkma's philosophy and what they teach about who we are in this form. We have an etheric blueprint, is what they call it. And every thought we think goes into that etheric blueprint, which is then reflected back to impact our physical form. So if someone is going to a ship, it is their light body that goes there, which is why they won't remember, or I don't remember, any specifics of what people look like, what the controls look like, anything that I could put in 3D, because it's not a 3D experience at all. It is an etheric, leaving the physical body, going into a light ship with your etheric. Whatever needs to happen, happens, and you come back with something that you can then interpret in third-dimensional reality. Does that make sense?
It does. And so we would say, to make sense out of this for your listeners, that is our experience. We know people around the world who say that they have physically been on ships and that they've had these experiences. Pia and I cannot say that has worked for us. We only know that for us, it's been an etheric or a light body or a rainbow body experience. So we have no judgment. We have no reason to disbelieve people when they say things have happened to them specifically. It's just that we have not had those experiences.
And we do feel that how we interpret our experience is the way that we share it with others. So whatever somebody says is their interpretation of their own personal experience. And we certainly, as Cullen said, we can't judge that.
I totally understand. It's interesting though, because there is a whole wave of, sort of people who have experienced, maybe not necessarily having close encounters of the third kind or the first kind, or whatever is the one that you get on board the ship, but they're seeing the spaceships in the sky. Like they might be off on a walk and they're seeing lights flying in formation above the hills or the fields and things like that. And more people are seeing this at the moment. Is that a way that they present themselves, as lights in the sky?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And what we understand is that energy beings, light beings, have the ability to shapeshift. If they want to make their presence known, they can do it in a light shift that we don't see, or they can do it in a way that we can see it and interpret it by blinking lights, by making certain shapes in the clouds. They do things because they can shapeshift, so that we do recognize, oh, now I understand the energy I'm feeling. Now I know why I've got prickles all up and down my body. They help us understand it.
We've been told by Larkma and by other beings from other star systems besides the Pleiades, we've been told that there will be more interconnection, there will be more contact in this year of 2020 than there has ever been in the history of humanity, that more and more people will see ships, or they will see cloud formations, which are often called lenticular, the multiple layer cloud designs, that people will actually see more and communicate more starting in this year. And we would have to say, we're getting reports worldwide from people saying, we're seeing things that we've always hoped to see, but we've never been able to see. We're now seeing them. We are so excited. It's happening night after night after night. And
not even to mention, you and I have seen, in addition to that, we have also seen that increase. I mean, we've seen these things all of our lives, but there is an absolute increase in their presence now.
We have seen. Go ahead, Hayden.
Well, I was going to say, they absolutely have. The amount of people now that are coming to me and sending photographs through of cloud formations or lights that they've seen in the sky, and for me, it was something that happened to me when I was a lot younger, but not so much these days. I have dreams about the Pleiadian spaceships, so I know that I'm experiencing things on the astral plane, but I'm not, sort of in my waking life anymore. But in my early teens, I was seeing all sorts of things. And, at that point, a lot of people were just very dismissive of what I was saying. And, getting this electricity sensation over my skin and all sorts of experiences like that. So for me, it's great that it's finally catching up and that a lot of people are starting to take it more seriously and are having their own experiences, so that you don't feel quite so alienated.
Yes. And that probably would be in the category of having visited a ship. Your etheric body, what you call your astral self, actually visited the ship, but you have no physical proof of it except what you bring back with you in your physical life from that experience. So it's the same thing as what I was sharing with you.
It's very much about a feeling of love that comes through when you experience.
Yes.
It's like this beautiful feeling of like unconditional love and non-judgment, and you can't explain it. It's like the Venus energy on steroids, so it's like a beautiful wave of rose pink energy that sort of emanates through from them.
Yes, that is a very good description. I would add to that feeling, when I have that sense, I tell people, and I tell Pia, it's like going home.
Yeah, it really is. It's beautiful. Okay, awesome. So the final book then, you mentioned it is the Conversations with Larkma. So, how does it work? I mean, obviously they're not interfering with human free will. We've discussed that. But what's the can you explain the Pleiadian wisdom for the future of technology and the power of thoughts, and who is really here to guide us forward now?
One thing that I would say is that when Cullen and I first met Larkma, when they first introduced themselves to us, we had simultaneous thought waves that would come through. Cullen, how would you describe that?
Well, I would call it having thought waves or thought forms inside our heads, not hearing it through our physical ears, but actually having what I guess we would call a telepathic understanding. We began, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, we began one night with these thoughts, and
just spontaneously at a particular energetic moment, and that energetic moment presented itself over and over and over again until we finally stopped what we were doing. And day after day after day, that energetic moment would show up. And we stopped one day and said, okay, who's here? What do you want to share? And instantly the thoughts started. So we started saying them out loud. I would say, they just said, we're one of six and six of one. And Cullen would say, that's exactly the words I got.
And we thought, what does that mean? What does one of six and six of one mean? And then we immediately got the next thought idea. It means that we're six individuals working in unity as a group of six, but we still have our own original energy and our own original thoughts. And we said, wow, that's a huge explanation of unity consciousness.
So this combination was going back and forth with one of us saying, I just got this, and the other one saying, me too.
Verbatim.
Verbatim.
The exact words.
What, in answer to your question, we think this is the communication of the future. This is what's going to take place rather than the technological email, smartphone, telephone calls, radio waves. We're going to just be able to feel each other's energy and get the information of whatever we need. So that's the advanced technology we're moving towards.
What they describe in their own society is that they don't have a language like humans have an actual verbal language. What they say is that they communicate in mathematical and musical tones directly heart to heart. Mm-hmm. They don't have a verbal way of communicating. It's just direct, immediate. And they say that we're moving, as Pia just said, towards that kind of understanding of communication. And here's a brilliant example of this. We're hearing from people all over the world that they believe they're losing their minds. They cannot remember anything anymore. They can't remember what they were thinking about or the word they were going to use to communicate to whomever they're speaking to. And Larkma has been telling us, and everyone, that is a purposeful change in the way you work as humanity. You're no longer going to communicate with words. You're no longer going to communicate in that very slow, very complicated way. So what they're telling us is that we're all moving towards a telepathic kind of system. And
that's the technology of the future. It's telepathic and it's light.
And that's why they say our technology as our medicine is archaic and very, very old paradigm.
Absolutely. No, I totally would agree with that. And that's the information I've been receiving as well. It feels very aligned. It's beautiful. So I guess, like, just to wrap it up, my final question for you this evening would be, I recently watched something all about the QAnon, and it was a new concept for me because I hadn't really heard about it before. And you know, Donald Trump's involvement with QAnon moving forward, and you know, are all of these theories, you know, based, you know, about Disney and, you know, pizza and all of this stuff? Is that rubbish according to Larkma, or is this actually really going on?
Well, they make a very clear point of never judging and telling that we need to use our discernment to find the truth, and that we need not to rely on what other people tell us. In fact, this is very interesting, Hayden. Whenever Larkma gives a synchronization with somebody, or a public talk, or the international live calls that we do every other week, whenever they do that, they very often will say, we've given you our perspective, but don't believe us. Trust your own heart. And that's what they're trying to get us to do now. Don't believe what you read, what you hear. Trust your heart. Do you believe this is true about what QAnon's saying? Does it resonate with you? Or do you just go, oh my gosh, could this be true? That's really exciting, or I'm really scared. If it's triggering you in an emotional state, chances are you're being manipulated. If it's not affecting you in an emotional state, maybe there's some value to it. Ultimately, all wisdom is within the heart, and all wisdom comes from a place of love, not sensationalism.
Or not intellectualism.
Yeah.
They say something very simple in addition to this. They say, if whatever you hear or whatever comes to you makes you feel calm, makes you feel good, makes you feel as though it's the right thing, they say, then you're collecting whatever that information, that energy, through your heart, and it makes sense. If it makes you fearful, if it makes you agitated, if it makes you anxious,
if it gets your mind whirling,
it's not coming from a true source. And I think that's a very, very simple way of explaining. If it's real and if it's truthful, there's only one truth. Truth never changes.
Lots of different facts, though.
If it's true, if it's from love, and if it's from light, it ultimately makes us feel good. It either makes us smile, or it gives us goosebumps, or it makes us tingle, or it simply calms us. That's the truth. If it does anything else, we have to look at what it feels like. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right.
It's something just conjured up in the mind or being fed to the mind, which we categorize as those are facts, because facts can change, and they do change all the time.
But the truth never changes.
Right.
Truth is love.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it very much aligns with the principles of the color mirrors, that everything is divine love, that you are divine love. You know, we're all divine love. We're all just part of this same beautiful, you know, sort of conscious light being. And we're just having, you know, individual human experiences, feeding that information back to source so consciousness can expand, which I think is beautiful. And just on a final note, I wanted to just show you this bottle here, and this is more for you, Pia, and this is just a thank you for the interview today. And this is called the just forgotten what it's called. I can't believe it. Sacred Mystery. Sacred Mystery.
Oh.
All right. So it's actually the feminine face of mastery, and it's to me it represents the colors of the Pleiadians, because it's got that beautiful sort of iridescent turquoise, almost platinum, futuristic energy sitting in the conscious section of the bottle, and underneath it's got that gorgeous pale olive. So it's very new earth energy, fitting into more of a divine feminine paradigm, and moving away from all of that patriarchal technological lineage bullshit.
Thanks for sharing that. It's lovely.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting because when you I look at people's numerology, so I look at their birth charts and their name charts, and with this bottle here, this is my name kind of in lights. So when you look at the name Hayden Crawford as a whole sort of entity, and you look at the total name number, the evolved version of that is this bottle here. So this is kind of the perfect balance between masculine and feminine energy, which you know is you know that androgyny that you were talking about right at the beginning.
Wonderful.
That's brilliant.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that you like that. Well, listen, thanks once again, guys, for joining me today. I can't wait to share this interview with my tribe of people that'll hopefully be watching. And yeah, I'm hopefully in the future I'll get to have another discussion with you and maybe continue those talks on sugar.
We would love to do that.
You're a wonderful interviewer, and thank you for this special time we've shared together.
Yeah, thank you for your energy and your ability to be doing what you're doing, because we're all in this together, and we have to add all of our gifts and talents to make the whole. So thank you for being what you are, who you are, and doing what you're doing.
Ah, bless you. Well, that's very sweet. Well, listen, I'll love you and leave you. Have a fantastic evening, and see you very soon. And I'll be sure to get your book as well.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Bye for now.